biggest advantage that AI can give you is tell you where to focus on, or what creative is working better than the other, what content is has the potential to go viral, and spend more time there.
We've been able to look more deeply at the patterns and connections in that content.
Content generation, which is where a lot of AI is being infused right now. A lot of companies are spending a lot of time there.
And certainly that's where the market is going, and we're seeing whole films now generated through AI. In the media industry, there is a lot of efficiency to be found with workflow around AI.
All right, Ben, thank you for joining. Let's start with, if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your experience so far? How did you start your journey, and where you are right now? What are you working on?
Sure. Thanks, Arpit. Also, thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to be here. So I've been in the media industry for 20 plus years. Most of my career spent in the Latino media space. I founded a company called NGL Collective about 15 years ago. Originally it was a company, a media and entertainment company, again focused on the Latino space. One of my partners was John Leguizamo, the actor comedian, and our business model really focused on taking branded content, packaging it with scalable media, and offering clients solutions to reach the Latino consumer market through those tools. In 2022, we sold the company to a company called Go Digital, and NGL Collective was merged with a company called MeToo. And MeToo is a company with deep roots, again in the Latino space, specifically in social. Running a few very popular brands on social channels, inclusive of Meta, Snap, TikTok, and YouTube. And now we are called NGLmitú, and I serve as the Chief Operating Officer for the combined entity.
That's awesome. And the social space and the media entertainment industry in general is just buzzing with AI right now. I was recently at Google Next, and we saw so many new announcements with video generation, music generation, image generation, and whatnot, and all sorts of other AI, ML announcements and data announcements. A lot of that being driven by the media entertainment industry, or for the media entertainment industry, including they're putting the Wizard of Oz, like an 80 plus year old movie, in the sphere. So taking
Yeah.
that low resolution movie and expanding it to the sphere scale. So there's a lot that is happening in this industry. So how does it feel to be right in the middle of it, being in the industry for the last 15 years, being in the forefront of it, and then now using AI to transform the industry? What does that mean for you, and how are you seeing AI impact your industry right now?
Yeah, first let me say I'm a big fan of The Wizard of Oz. I'm going to try to go to Vegas. I would love to see that in the sphere. I think it'll be really cool to
Yeah, I
see.
think they're coming out in August, sometime end of August is, if I'm not wrong, that's the timeline. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Although Vegas is hot in August, but we'll see. Yeah, it's an exciting time. I think a lot of the tools that are being used in the social space are around content generation, right? Finding efficiencies there, finding ways to have better real time customization around content, both in the traditional content market as well as with ad creative. We're looking at a lot of tools in that space for our business, although we have not activated extensively yet. Part of what we are a little cautious about, I think, is some of the hesitancy that everybody has around the usage rights, and so we've been slow on that front. Also a lot of the nuance in our market, right? We're in a market that is very much about culture, the Latino market, and so we want to make sure that any tools that we use get culture right, and that is something that requires a lot of experience, a lot of nuance, and often with some of the challenges with AI hallucination and still learning culture. we're very cautious in how we move forward. Where we have used AI tools in the content space is largely around currently is around looking at what to cover, and so we've developed some tools in house that sort of take the traditional, RSS feed or scraping of content across the web, and where we're using AI tools is to surface what topics we think will resonate with our audience. So again, thinking a lot about not just what's popular, what are popular topics, but also how to identify topics and communicate them to our audience with our tonality, with our cultural nuance. And we've seen that working really well. So even though our team is still the ones generating the content, the topics that they're using, surfacing those topics through AI has really shown us great improvement in terms of our engagement. Out of our 5 brands, and there's 5 of them, Me Too is our flagship brand. We have Hispanic Kitchen, which is a food brand, Crema, which is a music brand, Somos, which is our Spanish language brand, and Fierce, which is a female targeted brand. They consistently rank in the top, 5 to 7 in terms of engagement in our competitive set, and a lot of that is because we're leveraging these tools to surface content and tonality that really resonates with our audience.
That's very interesting. So use AI to augment what we're doing and make us way more effective and way more efficient. Can you double click on that a little bit? Like when you say we use AI to discover the right content to build and the right tone to build, like how are you doing it, or how are you doing it before AI happened? So what was the traditional process, and then how has AI helped you transform that process? Like where is the data coming from? Where is the content coming from, and what are the insights that AI is able to help you generate that you were not able to before?
Yeah, so I think traditionally we've looked at tools that have been used for a long time: RSS feeds, scrapers of the internet, as I said, human involvement, and just looking for hot topics that are out there.
Is that on
And
social media, like just monitoring social media and news?
across social and across the open web. So there's tools out there that can look at sentiment and things like that across social, and then also monitoring, like you said, news or entertainment topics, what's being covered. But I think where AI has helped us is, we've been able to look more deeply at the patterns and connections in that content as it relates to our specific audience. So the Latino market's it's a complex, fragmented audience, right? When you target any audience, you have sort of general uh, things you're looking at. You're looking at demographic information, gender, age. You're looking at, are they parents? Are they homeowners? You're looking at psychographic and behavioral information. When you get into the Latino market, then on top of that, you have to layer over a lot of other variables, things like language preference, things like generation, things like country of origin. Latino market tends to combine many countries combined within that market by language, but there's a lot of nuance there. Cuban Americans are very different than Mexican Americans, are very different than Puerto Ricans, and Mexican Americans in LA are very different than Mexican Americans in New York. So you have all of these variables, right? And AI allows us to really look at the content that we consider with a much deeper and much more thoughtful lens, if you will, because we're looking for patterns that align with the nuances of our market.
Hmm.
So it's helped us be more efficient and more effective, as I said, per the engagement that we see with our content.
Got it. That's amazing, and I've seen that across the board where we have at least a couple of other customers where the biggest advantage that AI can give you is tell you where to focus on, or what creative is working better than the other, what content is has the potential to go viral and spend more time there. We have a company that's doing that with content to commerce, side of things, where they're producing content
Mhm.
specifically to sell stuff using e-commerce. And we have another customer where they're doing that mostly on the ad creative, identifying which ads, which ad creatives have a potential to go viral or create way more CTR than the others, and so on and so forth. So I think that seems like a very good use case of AI, where across the board you're using it in media entertainment, and we have seen at least a few other areas where this is being super effective.
Yeah, no, and there's another interesting way in which so right. The now, or the future now, right, is largely about how are you creating dynamic creative, whether it's traditional content or whether it's ad creative, on the fly, right, that resonates with the audience and performs as best as it can. One of the things that we're doing, it's not dynamic, but one of the other ways in which we're using AI around content is we have a partnership with a company called Hyperlytics. They're a research and insights company based in Miami, and we built a platform with them called MeTooLytics, and MeTooLytics leverages our 15 million followers across social to create a panel that we can use for research and insights, things like brand lift studies and content studies, et cetera. And so, you know, Hyperlytics has a proprietary tool that we're using for this called Videotape. And
Mhm.
what Videotape is an AI tool that so that they collect quantitative and qualitative, but a focus here on quantitative information from the panel in the form of videos, right? So they give them a study in tradition. They give them a questionnaire. Traditionally, these questionnaires have been answered by written text. And so these responses are all videos. Everything is done with video. And you get a lot more rich information back, not just the quantitative data, but the qualitative sentiment, and again, some of those nuances that I was mentioning. And so
Yeah.
the AI tool Videotape actually reviews all of these video responses, generates the transcripts, and looks for patterns and interesting insights to surface from those responses. And so we use it in a few ways. One is, of course, as I said, research and insights. But ultimately, the idea is if we're doing a custom content campaign for a client, we do a lot of branded content. If we're doing a branded content campaign that lives in social, we can essentially pre-flight the content before we launch and tweak it to get a sense of how we think it will perform with the audience. And the AI tool is helping us to again, surface the insights around this. So it's effective not just for ad creative, it's a tool that could be used for ad creative, but we're really looking at how can we use it for branded content creative to determine what's going to be most successful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Use AI, get ahead of yourselves, try to determine what's going to work, what's not, and focus more energy on what's really going to work. Let's talk a little bit about the second aspect of that pipeline, which is actually content generation, which is where a lot of AI is being infused right now. A lot of companies are spending a lot of time there. What is NGL or NGLmitú doing in that area? Are you guys using AI to generate content? What's your strategy around that?
Yeah, so as I said, we're not yet. We're tiptoeing into the space. We are doing a little bit of testing, but I think that the main hesitancy there for us is just as the space still sort of sorts out its the legality around usage rights.
Yeah.
We want to be careful with a lot of our content, as I said, is monetized, is branded with clients, and most of what we're doing is still producing that content with our team as opposed to looking at AI tools. But there are some areas where we are using it. We did some documentary work for PBS a year ago, a documentary called Leguizamo Does America. And in that documentary, John Leguizamo sort of travels around um, to all these different places in the world and talks about sort of the contributions of Latinos in the history and the culture in many different ways. And there was certainly some sort of recreations of historical periods that we didn't have footage on, and there were some AI tools that were used to recreate that. But again, we're using it in a very limited basis right now because of some of those some of those things in the industry that are still being worked out.
Yeah, like beyond what you're doing at NGL, how are you seeing the industry respond to the usage right issue or potential infringement issue there? Have you heard anything, or like what are you seeing within your peers?
Um, I think there is certainly there's some ad creative that is using AI. There's a lot of clients that are starting to generate creative with AI, and I can't speak to the specifics of how they're using tools or navigating the legal potential legal issues. But I would assume that they're very controlled environments. They're drawing from a set pool of multimodal data that is vetted and and
Yeah,
maybe proprietary. Um,
yeah,
and certainly that's where the market is going, and we're seeing whole films now generated through AI. So I think certainly there's no doubt that will be figured out,
yeah.
um, but we're just we're hesitant to jump in until there's more clarity.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, this is very. So, I was at Google Next earlier this month, right? And when Google announced what they're doing with Sphere and Wizard of Oz, that was essentially, they presented a solution to this problem. So, the Wizard of Oz is shot in a lower resolution because it's a very old movie. The high resolution did not exist at the time, so it has a certain resolution. But Sphere is massive, right? It has a huge screen, very high resolution, some 16K or whatever the full resolution is. So it has to blow up the video to look high resolution. So that's one. But then it has to draw the parts that don't exist. So it has to do outpainting. It has to do outpainting and create whole characters that may not be in the frame. Not only complete the frame outside, but let's say there was a character who moved out, but you know that the character is there in the room, but when you look at it in the sphere, it's a massive panoramic screen, so you have to be able to generate that character and what the character might be doing, all of that. So all of that has to be created. Now the way I understand how the usage right issue is being solved is you take a model like VO2 and then fine tune it with a lot of your proprietary data, so a lot of the data about that movie, for example, right, to generate all those pieces. You don't just take it from the default model. The default model is amazing, but then you use that capability and then further fine tune that with Wizard of Oz in this case, right? All the movie, the frames, even the notes of the original director and the people who shot the movie, who designed the movie, who designed the costumes. There was a lot of content, multimodal content that was given to VO2, and it was fine tuned on that. I'm oversimplifying it. The process is not that easy. It's a fairly complex process. But then once you do that, you have a model that can generate stuff which is aligned to the input data, in this case the original movie. So the output is going to be aligned to that. But that's where I think the industry is headed.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and it makes sense. And again, that was my assumption. Like if you look at, I think it was Coke that recently did an AI ad. Well, anyway, a lot of brands are doing their own AI ads, and my guess is one of the things that they're doing is they're just utilizing their own material, previous ads, material that they're published on websites, etc., and using that to feed the AI. So therefore, they're only using their proprietary data, and then that's what's dictating how the AI generates the new ad. Or I think you'll see this right. The Wizard of Oz is an interesting example. If you have a movie that either you want to recreate in high def, or let's say you want to do a sequel,
Yeah,
or let's say you're Marvel and you want to do a new Captain America movie, you could just generate, I'm simplifying it like you said, but generate a new movie using AI. You could just use source data from other Marvel movies or other Captain America movies, and that way you're using proprietary, IP that you own, and that's the primary data source. So
yeah.
right, I think certainly in certain spaces and industries, that's an approach that makes sense.
And I think it's going to make more and more sense for somebody like NGLmitú, where, like you said, the Latino audience, the culture is very important. Similar to Wizard of Oz, like Wizard of Oz is a cult in itself. All of us have grown up watching that movie, so there is a lot of familiarity with that. So they trained it on that. So similarly for the Latino audience, if we can fine tune it on a specific culture aligned data or source media, then we can generate stuff which is more aligned to that. I mean, the generic models are already pretty great, but we can further ground them by doing things like fine tuning and aligning it more with the culture.
Right, right, and I think that's really important. You know, there's still a need for human touch and human training, right?
Of
Especially
course.
in our market where there's real nuance and approach and tonality that needs to be followed when you're creating content. And so if we have our expert content producers who come from the market, know the market, have experience in the market, understand what resonates, sort of driving the AI, training the AI, then perhaps, right, they could be more efficient in producing volume of content while still playing a really important role in making sure that the output is the quality, the tonality, addresses the nuance that we need, and that makes it authentic, because it has to come across authentic in the social
Yeah.
space in particular. If it's not authentic, and users can see through inauthentic content, then it's not going to work. And so it's not just a plug and play solution. It requires a lot of involvement from humans, and in our case, our amazing content producers.
Yeah, that's amazing. What is there, like the people who are producing content right now? I know you and I are probably thinking more from a strategic perspective, but people who are in the weeds producing content, what's their take on AI? Do they see this as another tool like Adobe Photoshop when it came around? Before that, it used to be paintbrushes and pencils and canvas, and now there is Photoshop. Like,
Yeah.
are they seeing it like that? Is it a tool that increases the productivity, or is there a little bit of skepticism? Like, how are the people on the ground looking at AI?
Yeah, it's both. I think it's there's mixed feelings about it, right? On the one hand, I think especially as the team members get trained and exposed to the AI tools, there's a lot of excitement about how it can create effectiveness and efficiency in terms of all creative, right? Not just us producing content and social, but people producing creative across all industries. But of course, with that also comes apprehension, as comes with any automation throughout history, which is this going to replace me? Is it going to cause me to lose my job? Look, I think the reality is it's all of that. I think it will change the way we work in all industries. It will certainly cause to evolution of jobs, maybe definitely loss of jobs in certain industries. But I think, I have a friend, Albert Thompson, who is very, I don't know if you know Albert, he's very knowledgeable on AI, does a lot of speaking about AI, and he equates it to the tractor, right? When the tractor came along, um, everybody who worked on farming thought
Yeah,
they were going to lose their jobs, and a lot of people did lose their jobs. But the
yeah,
tractor allowed farmers to be more efficient, and that created new jobs
new jobs.
in the space, like mechanics for farm equipment. That's maybe not the best example, but that this is a trend we've seen throughout history with automation. And I think in the creative space, there's both excitement and apprehension, as always. But I think the key is really going to be about training. People really need to, or companies need to invest in developing strategies for AI, rethinking their entire business models around AI, and then training their people in how to use AI. And I know on our end, we're really looking at how does, especially on the operational side, how does implementation of AI and training around AI allow are people in certain positions to evolve their roles and maybe focus on areas that in the future will be more beneficial for business growth.
Yeah.
Of course, we worked on a project with you that related to that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about operations. You touched upon operations a little bit. So we talked about how AI is helping you with strategy and identifying what content to work on, or identifying insights to drive strategy. And we talked about AI for actual content generation, content development, content workflows. Let's talk a little bit about AI that is being used in the industry for operations and optimizing operations and achieving operational efficiency. What are you doing in that space, or what are you seeing happen in the industry in that space? And we can also talk about the project that we worked upon around operations.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of tools that are being rolled out. Many of them by big companies who have technology platforms that are already being used to make them more efficient. Google, of course, uh, you know, helping you write your emails. We use Box, which is a file storage program, and they have an AI tool. Everybody's rolling out some solution. I think in the media industry, there is a lot of efficiency to be found with workflow around AI. When you're on the publisher side, you get RFPs. The RFPs come in, you have to digest them, you have to turn them into proposals, you have to spit out a deck, you have to build a media plan. You have to you have to put all that in different templates that the clients require. And then post campaign, you got to, or even during the campaign, you have to optimize, you have to, provide reporting, you have to develop end of campaign reports. There's a ton of grunt work in that process, right? And that requires a lot of manual labor. And it's just unavoidable. There are some automation solutions that have already existed in the market that help streamline some of that. But again, when you're talking about, relaying your unique value proposition to a client, it's not just science. There's art, right? There's again nuance in the way you articulate that, and traditional sort of machine learning, traditional sort of automation tools have just allowed you to do sort of more of the science. So um, what we've been looking at is how can we optimize workflows around things like RFP response, campaign management, and campaign reporting and end of campaign reporting. How can we optimize workflows to make our teams more efficient and allow them to focus on things that are more business driving activities, such as sales, such as biz dev, such as product development. And so we worked on a program with you and the Elastiq team, of course, looking at sort of a proof of concept around RFP response, and looking at how much of that could we automate. So an RFP comes in, can we use AI to sort of summarize the key points of the RFP? Can we use AI to look at our product offering and translate that into a forward-facing client deck with recommendations that fit the client's needs from the RFP, that highlight the most effective products that we feel will match the client needs, that articulate it in a tone and messaging a way that aligns with what we think is our strongest value proposition, and cut that process down in terms of time and in terms of the number of people that are needed to work on that response, so that I can have I had a team member who is a very seasoned marketer who's still building PowerPoint decks. I'd much rather have him out in the field talking to clients, doing biz dev, upselling, things like that.
Yeah. So one of the things that I always tell people when people ask me like why focus on AI is because, I tell them, let's say Ben, you started NGL, you probably wanted to create content and entertain people. You never thought, oh, I'm going to write a beautiful RFP response. So all of this is overhead, and there is a lot of grunt work, like you said,
Right.
that needs to happen for us to do what the purpose of the company is, which is like to build content and entertain people in a particular geo, right, or particular demographic. So that is what AI allows us to do. AI allows us to automate a lot of or optimize a lot of the mundane workflow kind of tasks that need to happen in order to achieve our purpose and get us closer to our purpose, like raise the overall human potential by allowing all of us to do more meaningful work, more purpose driven work, and spend less time on just the grunt work or the mundane kind of activities that need to happen for us to achieve what we want to achieve. So that's that. And the other things, so double click on the RFP process optimization work that we did, right? So previously it took probably a team of a few people many days to respond to an RFP, because like you said, there is a media plan, there is a proposal deck, there is a questionnaire, all of these things need to come together, and then we need to respond to it. So a couple of things happened there. You said obviously we were able to reduce the time to respond to the to those RFPs, which means customers get a better experience. Those who are sending in the RFP, they get a proposal faster. We have less human error because now it's more systematic and more consistent. Is once set process that is responding to the RF to respond to the RFP. So there's less human error, more consistency in response, and people are able to spend time doing what they love and what they're really good at, which is like being out in the field or creating more content or getting more customers, etc., rather than creating PowerPoint decks and spreadsheets, like you said. So that's an amazing outcome. How do you see AI, optimize more and more of these operational activities at NGLmitú, and what kind of larger impact do you see commercially on your top line, bottom line, or your operations or your business in general for that?
Yeah, well, look, I think, as I said, there needs to be investment to build out these tools. There needs to be training, but I think ultimately, you can get to a place where you have a really sort of redefined business model for me, for all companies, but obviously I'm in the media space. Um, and I think it's not just about the work; it's also about the knowledge base, right? I think um, you look at, can as far as the workflow, you look at a tool like the one we built with you as a proof of concept, and can you take the entire RFP response process and campaign management process, and can you strip out the grunt work, and can you have less people focused on that and more focused on some people will still be focused on managing that process, but managing the AI agents that manage that process, right? Um, and then you redistribute other people to things like you said, that are not only, raise an interesting point, not only growing the business but also allowing people to do the things that they love, right? I mean, I don't know many people that love doing Excel sheets. I actually like doing Excel sheets, but I don't know many people that like doing Excel sheets, like doing PowerPoints, right? A lot of them would rather be out, like you said, developing cool products and talking to clients. So I think what you're going to see is you're going to see leaner companies. You're going to see leaner business models. We're already seeing it. That's where you will see, right, some of the job loss in the market. There's no doubt. There's no sugarcoating that. Whenever you have automation like this or technological advancements like this, you're going to see some job loss. But my hope is that it will also lead to job creation in different areas. And in the media space, for instance, you're going to see more influencers and creators. There's already a lot. You're going to see more as they develop, more tools that make it easier to create content, that make it easier to distribute content. And I don't think it's going to stop in the media space. I think you're going to see more entrepreneurs across all industries as the barriers for entering business become lower and lower because of not only the tools from AI, but the knowledge base that AI will help people generate.
Hmm.
Do you need to go to business school, or can you just, use AI to learn everything you need to know about business? Now, I'm simplifying it, of course, but the point I'm making is, there's going to be a democratization, not only of access, but also of knowledge. And that
Yeah.
will allow more people, I think, to be successful in business, whether they're working for other companies or whether they're working for themselves. And that, I think, is really, really exciting. And I hope that people embrace that, and look to use AI as a tool to empower themselves, as opposed to just be afraid of of it, taking the jobs that they know of existing today. Now, people are going to have to lean in. There's going to have to be initiative taken from people to learn these tools, and companies are going to have to lean in. They're going to have to train employees in these tools and how to use them. But I think that's going to have to happen, and I think ultimately there will be a lot of benefits from that.
Got it. No, that's amazing. And like you said, everybody needs to lean in and take this, use AI to its advantage. There has been a lot of knowledge that has been created across the internet because over the last many years because of internet, and internet has pretty much democratized knowledge. But now AI puts a real filter on it, makes it very easy. If I have to ask something, the only way to do it previously was either go and hire a consultant who has knowledge, or search over it over the internet, hope that everything is true. But now it's so easy, like, and I can ask Gemini or I can ask ChatGPT a question and I get an answer. Is it always correct? Probably not. Maybe a few times it might hallucinate, but then it's getting better and better, and it is the worst that it'll ever be. In 5 years from now, everything that we're talking about now is gonna change, and it's gonna be way better than what it is now. Probably 10, 20, 100 times better than what it is right now. So it's only getting better from here. So people who are in the industry now need to start thinking about where do they see their jobs and their businesses in 5 to 10 years from now, given the pace of innovation in the field of AI. No, this is great, Ben. Thank you for providing all these insights. Is there anything else that you would like to cover?
No, I mean, I think we covered a lot. Covered a lot. It'll be really exciting to see how how this space continues to evolve. Not just in the media space, but overall. As I said, I think we certainly, there's cause for some apprehension, but overall, I think it's an exciting time. It's really going to change our the way we live, not just the way we work. And I think there'll be a lot of upside to that, especially if we embrace it and we lean in. Like I said, and then lastly, just wanted to thank you, Arpit. The project we did with your team at Elastiq was great. It was exciting, very insightful. We're definitely would love to find a way to do more with you. You and also the Google team that supported the project as well. So definitely appreciate all of the work that your team contributed to the proof of concept program we did.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Ben, for participating in this talk. It was great talking with you, very insightful. And let's continue the conversation. And I'm sure we'll find a way to work together again on more and more exciting projects. All right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, everybody. That's the part.